I don't know how you found me. Now I can't hide.
I see myself as a designer rather than an artist. And creativity has become a way of living. It's around me all the time, whether it's the way that I arrange my house or my garden, working in my studio, working with colour. It's a very important part of who I am. My mum taught me to knit when I was about 5. She was always knitting, and my grandmother always knitted, so it was just something that I was brought up to do. I've always been very grateful for that because I've never stopped knitting, really. I think the first things that I ever made was an outfit for my teddy bear, and I've still got that teddy bear now. Mum used to take me off to jumble sales, and we used to buy jumpers, and we used to unravel them and wash them to get the crinkly bits out, and then roll them back into balls again, and then knit them up, and that was quite exciting. I did my degree at Winchester School of Art, and I specialised in textiles, and that was, I think, partly because of the background in knitting. In the first year you did print and weave with a bit of knit as well, but then we were really introduced to the knitting machines, and that was what took off for me.
Brother, why don't you cry?
I loved using knitting machines, and I still do now after all that time.
Why don't you cry? Mother, come on and cry. Baby, I hear you.
When I left college, I designed a collection of garments and took them off to a shop in Knightsbridge, quite innocently, a really posh shop. As I got my suitcase full of garments out to show the owner of the shop, the customers all started trying them on and wanted to buy them. By the end of my visit, I had sold everything. I started working for companies as a knitwear designer. Working in industry was fantastic because all the yarns were provided. I loved that. Some of the garments were featured in magazines at the time, and one of my Fair Isles was actually featured in the film Trading Places, and it was worn by Jamie Lee Curtis. I've got a very old knitting machine that I had since I left college, and I still use it now. It has a 24-stitch repeat, and when I'm designing a pattern for my knitting machine, it has to be done with a punch card, and I really enjoy the limitation of having to form a pattern just over 24 stitches. I actually like to work with limitation. It gives me a structure to work around. The machine isn't cheating. Basically, it's much quicker. It makes things much more realistic. It's a different way of working. I love working with yarn. I love working with the different textures and colours to form patterns, and the surprising things that happen when you actually start to knit with yarn. I like to line the colours up before I start, and that's a way that I know that they'll work together. I quite like putting lots of sludgy colours together, and then to put a shot or an accent of a really bright colour that will kind of make it sing. I normally know when something's right. It's instinctive now. I think I've used yarn for so long that I do have a good idea of what will happen.
Time has passed so slowly.
I love hand knitting. It's much slower than a machine, but you can get different effects, different kind of stitches, and the slight unevenness of knitting, at least my hand knitting, does give it a very different quality to the machine-like flatness.
And I heard your sweet, sweet
I separate mentally and physically hand knitting and machine knitting. Machine knitting is more of a job. That's something that you do in the day with Radio 4, if you can hear it, with the machine rattling away.
when we spend time, it's joy.
Hand knitting is something that is much more relaxing and is done in the evening, and that's more for enjoyment. And I would only ever hand knit a sweater for myself, never for anyone else.
These sad tunes I've been
I think after all the years of knitting and also teaching knit at lots of different universities, I felt that I wanted to discover what else I could do.
Then you came along, and I heard your sweet, sweet song.
So I started printmaking, and it was fantastic.
That continues and continues.
I do find when I'm printing, there's something rather wonderful about the lino.
It's the smile.
It's almost as if the tool and the lino take over. And so my initial idea sometimes doesn't materialise, it develops into something else. It's letting the process take over.
Before you bring it to me.
I feel that the printmaking I'm doing now really works very well with my knitting. I think I print like I knit. Being a knitter, I always think in terms of grids, the warp and the weft, or rows and stitches. And my printing is somehow governed by that.
Thank you for bringing it to me. You are bringing it to me.
So I think there really is a close relationship between the two.
Hello, nice to see you. I've got my work.
Oh, that's great.
Don't distract me from love.
It was Verandah that started me knitting again. My love of knitting kind of rushed back, and I had to think about what things I could make.
This could leave my heart in a twist.
I started to design a range of tea cozies. So my idea was to use beautiful yarns, so I have lovely Scottish lamb's wool in a really good variety of colours.
Don't distract me from love.
I'd always loved tea cozies, and they remind me of my mum. Every tea cosy has a different name, and the first one I chose was my mum's, which was Betty. The Betty tea cosy. I'm always inspired by the world around me, landscapes, buildings, and mainly my garden, which is a great source of colour, texture and composition. I love gardening, and I feel it's very connected with my work. I love using my sketchbook. I'll put lots of collages, drawings, ideas together. My work isn't literal, so I won't then make a print or a knit directly from the drawings, but they just create a mood. And creativity has become a way of living. It's around me all the time, whether it's the way that I arrange my house or my garden, working in my studio, working with colour. It's very important, and I think without my work, I don't quite know what I'd do with myself. It's a very important part of who I am. I don't know who I would be without it.